Hello, I am A.D. Shastri, the staff reporter with the Breckenridge American. I'm here live with
August Pfluger.
Pfluger is running for the United States House of Representatives. I will be asking him questions involving local, statewide, and global affairs. Question one, what will you do to offset the deficiencies that we will be receiving from the oil and gas that's going on right now?
What a great question to start off with, because it's so important. And since March 9th, in the Permian Basin, we've lost 40,000 jobs. And when you look at the production of what the Permian Basin is actually doing for our country, we produce 40% of the country's oil. And so there's a couple of things that need to happen. First and foremost, we need to make sure we have a level playing field. And what I mean by that is when you see the Saudis dumping millions of additional barrels onto the market, we talked to the White House and to the administration about making sure that they stop that. And we're largely successful at that. So we'll continue those efforts to make sure that right here we get a fair deal and that the oil that we're producing can go to the country and to the rest of the world where it needs to go.
What other issues are you looking at regarding this district to kind of assist?
It's another great question. When we look at the 29 counties that comprise District 11, I think one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, is the agriculture that we produce here. From cotton to beef, we have peanuts, there's sheep and goats, there's all sorts of products that are being produced right here in this district. And if you're like me, at the end of March of this year, when the pandemic really started in this country, and we went to the grocery store and the shelves were completely empty, that's a national security issue. We need a voice in Washington to stand up for our agriculture. We're feeding the country, we're clothing the country, and we need to continue to protect that.
What are your thoughts on the coronavirus and the House of Representatives and the Senate's inability to come up with a care package to help citizens that are in need right now?
Well, I think what we did, to start with, the Paycheck Protection Program, the Main Street Lending programs, these were critical for businesses. I think there's a balance. We need to continue to take care of the small businesses, but also, get the country safely moving forward. And I'm hopeful that we'll have a vaccine that will come out soon. There's therapeutic treatments that are coming out. And so Washington is a divisive place right now. What I bring to the table is an ability to talk and stand up for our values, but also to talk to the other side of the aisle to get things that we need for this country and for this district.
That was one of my questions. Will you be willing to reach across the aisle and talk to Democrats to kind of come up with new ideas and sponsor bills and things like that?
Of course, and it doesn't mean that we have things here that the Democrats don't support. Second Amendment rights, the protection of the unborn, those things to me, if the Democrats aren't willing to see our perspective on it, then we might not be able to agree on those. But when it comes to other bills like the National Defense Bill, taking care of our military and our veterans, absolutely I'm going to reach across the aisle to make sure that we do keep our country strong, especially militarily.
What committees are you eyeing various committees to get on that you think that you'll be able to assist better than what we have right now?
Absolutely. Again, it goes back to what are we doing in this district? We have oil and gas, we have agriculture, there's an Air Force base, and so those things need to be represented well. Obviously, the Agriculture Committee is big. Congressman Conway is on that committee. He was the chairman of that committee, so that's something that I would certainly like to be on. Armed Service Committee would be a good one. For oil and gas, there's various committees that deal with it. It's not just one. Energy and Commerce is definitely a good one. That would be a good committee, but it's at times difficult to get on that. So there's a couple that deal with oil and gas that would also be good, to make sure we represent well.
Okay. I'll pivot to some countrywide issues. We've been having racial relation issues in this country for quite a while now. What is your thoughts on what we're seeing right now in the country and how we can move forward?
First off, there are issues, and I'm glad that you brought that up, and we need to make sure that we do everything possible to take care of those issues in the right way, in a respectful manner. But I think when we see the chaos and the violence and the looting and the mob, that doesn't represent progress in that direction. And these folks that are doing that, to me, we're not achieving anything positive out of it. I look at a defund the police movement that doesn't have anything to do with what we need on social justice and keeping our cities safe for mayors. We just talked to the judge here, and mayors of each individual city have a responsibility to take care of their city. That is not political. That is the responsibility of our elected officials. And in Portland and in Seattle and places that's not happening, we've all worked very hard, Republicans and Democrats, to build our country. But now to let them be torn down is unacceptable. And so we need to work in a positive way. That is not positive in my mind.
You did mention social justice. What are some of the things that you're looking to help alleviate the stress that we're seeing right now from a social justice standpoint?
As a career military officer, the military is taking immediate steps right now to make sure that when they do promotions, that we're not having biases that are based on race, or religion, or ethnicity, or anything that I see that could be, maybe even if they're not in our conscience, maybe they're subconscious biases. And so those types of steps to make sure that we are promoting the best people, and regardless of where they come from, to me that's a really good first step. And obviously, when it comes to our police force, I believe in my heart that 99% of our law enforcement are good people. That 1%, though, if they are doing things that are not in accordance with protecting and serving, then they need to go. But I do believe that most of our law enforcement is good.
Now we'll shift to global affairs. Donald Trump removed us from the Iran nuclear deal. I know you were on the National Security Council. What were your thoughts on being removed from the Iran deal and not have a plan to replace it?
Well, the deal was bad to start with. The underpinnings of the deal promoted a system where the Iranians had put the burden on the Iranians to tell us that they were breaking the rules. And we all know that doesn't work. I fought in the Middle East. I've been stationed there. I see what the Iranians are doing in Yemen. I see what they're doing in Syria and Iraq and in Lebanon. And they're moving weapons to the Lebanese urban areas that are sitting directly across the border from Israel. And so when you look at the Iranian end state, what they want is the total destruction of Israel. For us to be in a deal, so-called deal with them, that allowed their nuclear program to continue and have the underpinnings of allowing them to produce weapons-grade nuclear material was a bad deal for us. So when the president pulled out of that, what he said was, we're not going to support your nuclear program because you don't follow the rules. And so I fully supported him pulling out of that. And I think that if we were to come up with a new structure, it would take the Iranians are going to have to move from where their position is. And the responsibility is not on the United States or on Israel or on now the UAE, which sits directly across from Iran. And when you see Israel and the UAE, they've come together in diplomatic relations this past week because they see that threat and they understand just how destructive it could be.
What are your thoughts on China and their inability to inform us of the global pandemic that was coming our way?
It's no surprise. The Chinese have been stealing our intellectual property for years. When a company goes to China, they take your trade secrets. For them to have this virus originate from within their borders and then not let us know is extremely dangerous for the world. And we've seen hundreds of thousands of deaths in this country and around the world that have resulted in that. So they need to be held accountable for that, just like the president is trying to do when he's holding them accountable for our trade deals, because we need a level playing field. And right now, we don't see that, whether it's the pandemic or in trade.
Russia has been known to meddle in our elections. I think the Senate Intelligence Committee just came out with their report saying that Russia was the one to was involved in our election. What are you doing to hold them accountable, or what will you do to hold them accountable for any further meddling in United States elections?
Well, any foreign country that meddles in our elections is unacceptable. And I think this goes to kind of the heart of the American dream. It is uniquely American to be able to go to a polling site and know that you have the safety and the security to vote as you want to vote, and that there's no fear of reprisal, and nothing negative is going to happen because of that. And so whether it's cyber meddling, we're seeing kind of an issue right now with mail-in ballots. And ballot harvesting is real. It's happened before. And so whether it's Russia or even inside of our own borders, we do need to make sure we have a responsibility to let everyone know that our system is pure, and that we can count on the system, and that we know that the results of that are true. And right now, I think the American public is looking at that with some question marks, whether it's from Russia or whether it's in this ballot harvesting type of mentality. So, what am I going to do for that? We need to take action to make sure that we can allow people to vote in a safe way. In a pandemic, that's hard, and so you can request an absentee ballot. That process already exists, and that's one way that we can do that. And then on the cyber front, we need to make sure that we have all the defenses and the structure set up in our country to defend against any sort of meddling that might occur.
We've been having issues here about the Postal Service not producing mail. Do you see that as the issue right now that needs to be something needs to be done about before the election, or is that something that after the election?
I think that this is a very political issue that's been brought up right now at this current time that doesn't necessarily reflect the reform that needs to actually happen in the postal system. Organizations change, and the Postal Service is no exception to that. And so, I think the bill that was proposed last week doesn't fit. It's not the solution. It doesn't fit the problem that we're actually seeing. And so, unfortunately, I think it is going to have to happen after the election, because the two parties in Congress had not been able to come together. There was no discussion, and the Republican Party did not get a say in the House, and therefore, when it goes to the Senate, it's not going to pass.
Can you let citizens in this district know why they should vote for you as their representative?
All right. Well, thank you for that. Yes, my name is August Pfluger. I grew up in San Angelo. I've served in the Air Force for 20 years. And when I look at this district, what I see are truly strategic, important things, whether it's the agriculture or the oil and gas or the Air Force Base that we have that are protecting this nation, that are feeding the country, fueling the country, and really keeping it safe. And I think my experiences growing up in a ranching family and then serving with a lot of combat time and a lot of deployed time around the world, we live in an incredible country. We need a voice for rural America. We need a voice to keep us secure. I would be honored to have your vote and your support, and just absolutely humbled to represent a district that is this special, and appreciate everyone who goes to the polls on November 3rd to take part in our process. We have a great country, a special country, and we need to protect it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
August will be on the ballot for the November 3rd general election. Please vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.